Hello and welcome to episode number 30 of the Citadel of Hype podcast. Wow, you guys are still listening to us for some reason. Thank you for being here, and thank you, of course, to Gemma for joining me today. We're going to be talking about one of our favorite characters, Samwell Tarly, and we're going to talk about the fate of Samwell Tarly today. So, Gemma, what's going on with you?
Hi, I'm good. I'm absolutely shattered. I've had one too many late nights, I think. So if I'm a little slow on the energy today, I will apologize in advance. But it's great to be here as usual. What's up, everybody in the chat?
So today, what we're going to do is we're going to have a fun podcast where me and Gemma have a few points, 4 or 5 points that we really want to talk about concerning Samwell Tarly. We're going to do a little book versus show. We're going to talk about his fate in the show. Me and Gemma are kind of pretty much on the same page as this one, which is really surprising because we usually have yes. But we're also going to throw it to you, the chat. So we're going to be on the lookout for awesome comments and take some of your questions and whatnot and kind of weave it into the podcast today. We've got some amazing people in the chat. We have Run with Squirrels, Nicola, George Turner, Chrissy Polstone, the best moderator ever, Karen Richmond, Mom Auger, Jesse Verdusco, Laura D. Enclavano, G's name taken. We have Dan Talmasca. Dan's in here. He's usually past his bedtime when we're going live. Tubbs, nice to see you. Anime Lover, Otilla Angel, Catherine Cronin, Nicola, Travis, and I'm sure many others will be joining us as well. So, Gemma, where do we want to start today with Samwell Tarly?
I want to just quickly say I'm so happy that it arrived. G's name taken. I was wondering if I would get a message soon saying, and I did see your Twitter message, but I got distracted with the children and what have you. I will reply to you and explain what happened there, but I'm just glad you've got it.
Oh, she got a Hodor doorstep. That's awesome.
And an Iron Throne.
Damn, Gemma being generous. Doesn't happen with me, people. Oh, God of War mug. I'm not as cool. I just have my look.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. It's a color change one. It goes. The red bit disappears as it. I'm such a geek.
God of War game of the year, by the way. Whenever they decide that. Okay, Gemma, Samwell Tarly. Who is Samwell Tarly? How could we describe Samwell Tarly?
Okay, Sam has actually got a really sad backstory. And we do hear Sam's backstory quite early on in the books and in the show. It's kind of Sam opens up to Jon and kind of relays his story and why he ended up at the wall. And it's like a moment of bonding for Jon and Sam, isn't it? And it's really the launch pad of their friendship, because Jon obviously he's pretty emo, feeling sorry for himself because he's a bastard. He's ended up at the wall. And Sam, although he's not a bastard, he might as well have been. His father, Randall Tarly, who we saw in season 7 being cooked alive by Drogon. Yeah, he basically ostracized Sam. I mean, I won't go fully into it. I know you can kind of flesh this one out, Kyle. But he basically threatened to kill him for reasons Kyle will get into, unless Sam went to the wall. So Sam had a very tragic backstory. But he's just such a nice guy, you know, and Jon was the only one at the wall that could really see that, you know, to have him just die pointlessly was ridiculous when this guy clearly has so much to give. And as the story has progressed, we've seen that Jon was proved more than correct on many occasions. Sam is instrumental. Everybody needs a Sam, don't they?
A Samwise Gamgee. We'll talk a little bit about that after. But Randall Tarly, specifically on this point, Gemma, he's a well-respected general and has been for a very long time. And the Tarly name has been well-respected. I mean, that's why they have Heartsbane. They've had Heartsbane in their family for such a long time. So if we're looking at House Tarly, I mean, you know, they're in the Reach. They've been a respected house in that area for such a long time. And Randall, I mean, they're looked at more of like a military family. And Sam kind of doesn't fit that mold. He's a bigger guy. He's not terribly good at fighting, but he is incredibly intelligent, like a Tyrion Lannister. He fits that mold of a crippled bastard and broken thing. Some of the characters that George loves to flash out within the Song of Ice and Fire. So Samwell Tarly and Randall, very, very different people. And Samwell is very much like his mother, a very, very kind and compassionate person. We hear about her, how she's always been a very kind person. So that's kind of a little bit about Samwell Tarly. And obviously, Sam is that supporting character that we have. He's when he has interactions with Bran, when he has interactions with Jon, he's always very supportive. And that's why we have the Samwise Gamgee comparison literally within the name. So we can kind of go there. Let's see what people are saying in the chat. People are saying Randall reminds me a lot of Tywin. I agree. Stannis is another comparison that's made. Gemma. Randall Tarly is toast. And it's pretty interesting that there's a power vacuum there in the show. It might be a little bit different in the books, but the Samwell, who knows what he could become in the future. So Samwell Tarly, much like a Samwise Gamgee. But Gemma, one of the points we really want to get into, I think most people know who Sam is. Samwell Tarly is. He's one of the main characters, a point of view character in the Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones. Why didn't that White Walker kill Sam when he was...
This is the question, isn't it? This is the question that comes up over and over again. I haven't actually done a video covering this specifically, but I have talked about this as a very brief aside in the wider context of my videos that I talk about the White Walkers in general. There's a few fields of thought regarding this, and this is specifically, it was in the season 2 finale of the show. The scene where the army comes up and Sam's sat behind the rock and the White Walker's on it, and he holds his spear or whatever it is in the air and does that shrieky scream thing that they do, and then you just see the vast army and Sam's kind of shaking, and they don't kill him. A lot of people have said that the camera angles suggest the White Walker saw him when in fact he didn't. The suggestion, therefore, being that Sam was literally not even seen. I'm not sure if that's the case, because the White Walkers have, well, it's not a pattern. 2 isn't a pattern, is it? You'd need more than 2. But if we go back to the Game of Thrones prologue with Will and Garrett and Waymar Royce, they left somebody alive when they didn't have to. Will Garrett, they swapped it for the show. And that prologue, it almost felt that as though the White Walkers were putting Westeros on notice. And in order for them to do so, somebody had to be left alive to go and tell everybody what was happening, that these White Walkers were lurking around the haunted forest. So perhaps it's a similar situation. Perhaps they needed Sam and left, because they certainly killed plenty of members of the Night's Watch. Plenty of the Night's Watch were killed. Perhaps they left Sam as a messenger to go and, again, give the rest of Westeros an update. It does feel as though the White Walkers not only don't mind the rest of Westeros knowing that they're coming, but it feels that they want them to know, that they want a message to be sent. Some people go a little bit further with the tinfoil and suggest that Sam has got Targaryen blood or blood of the first, all sorts of crazy bloodline DNA kind of. That's when we start moving into, and I don't mind tinfoil, but I'm not going to get into that. That's kind of where I stand.
Well, you said there's 2 very interesting instances where they were very close in proximity to the White Walkers. Obviously, we get it's Will that goes back and gets his head chopped off by Ned, correct?
Yeah.
And then we have Samwell have that interaction, but then we have Hardhome in the show, and we also have Beyond the Wall, where water is an interaction, where the White Walkers can't interact with the water. I mean, the Night King is like, "Come at me, bro," and then obviously the White Walkers wait for it to, we don't know exactly why, but the Night King got a dragon, and that's seemingly the idea. But in both those instances, messages were communicated because Gendry went to the wall, and also at Hardhome, Jon and them obviously communicated that they had the battle at Hardhome and lost a huge significant portion of their army.
In the chat, Gemma needs to share her contouring technique. I should do makeup videos. I would if I was prepared to let you guys see me before I put it on. Here it is. Nyanor, what do you think of the theory that anyone kneeling before a White Walker isn't killed? I actually really enjoy that theory a lot, because, of course, that is exactly what happened in the prologue. Sam technically wasn't kneeling, was he?
But he was cowering in fear.
Yeah, he's certainly, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah. Where are you on that one, Kyle?
It's really interesting. I mean, the Night King is technically a king. Well, we call him the Night King. I mean, he's a fictional character.
Sure, yeah.
But I don't know. It's fun to talk about, but I don't think it's a thing, really. But
Gemma, I woke up like this, of course. Sorry, we're trying to talk about Game of Thrones, and this is just, we're just turning it into a makeup channel, Kyle. Sorry.
James, if you could type that, if you could translate that in English, I can answer that for you, man. But that is currently not, I'm not able to read that and translate that, my friend, James. So just, if you get that translated for me, we will answer that for you. One interesting reason that connects to this particular reason why Sam didn't get killed by the White Walkers, Gemma, is there's Sam the Slayer, Sam the narrator, and Sam the Wizard. Sam the narrator is, is this the reason why he isn't being killed by the White Walkers? Because he's telling a story. He's the one who's actually narrating the Song of Ice and Fire. We talked about this right before he got on stream. In the opening credits, we see the lenses when Sam arrives to the Citadel. Those flip back in part of the credits, and then we have the astrolabe. So, Gemma, we both, this isn't our pet peeve theory. This has been out there for a while, talked by many different people. But what do you think about that one? I think that's actually quite plausible.
I really do. I can completely see it. I can see it for both show and book. I can see that final scene being Sam reading to little Sam or John and Danny's baby, whatever, reading the story of the Song of Ice and Fire to the children. We've had in my opinion, obviously there's the Lord of the Rings reference with Samwise Gamgee, which you've already covered, but there's also, for me, the actual opener, the opening title sequence of Game of Thrones suggests to me, it's almost meta. It suggests very clearly that there is a maester overviewing Westeros, this map of Westeros. Like you said, there's the astrolabe connection, but there's also the little spectacle things, those things that the maester had when Sam first went into the Citadel. The lens flicks over the screen a couple of times. Blink and you'll miss it, but it's been there from the beginning, and it wasn't until season 6 that we saw a maester actually wear them. I think Lewin may have had a pair at some point earlier on. But
he was showing Brand, Brand had some sort of pen or instrument of writing, and Lewin was teaching him about the different houses and whatnot.
That's right. Yes. Yeah, that's right. And I think that was a nod to his telescope that he was looking at the red comet. That's a separate. But then, of course, in season 7, when Sam is talking to, we've been calling him Maester Jim Broadbent, haven't we? Because he's like an amalgamation of a couple of maesters from the books. Did they call him Marwyn in the show, or was it Ebros?
I'm pretty sure it was Maester Ebros.
Okay, so either way, he was an amalgamation of these two characters. But they even had that little conversation between them, didn't they? Where he's writing a book, and Sam sort of pulls a face and he says, "Don't you like it? What would you call it?" And Sam says he would name it something a little bit more poetic. So it's almost like an in-joke.
The Song of Ice and Fire, yeah.
It's like the creators of the show are aware of the Sam the narrator theory, and whether it does come about or not, that it's funny enough for them to just slip that little hint in there for us to perhaps tease us, or maybe it's foreshadow. We've reached a point now where we're not sure if it's teasing because they're aware of the theories, or if it's genuine foreshadowing anymore.
Well, the interesting thing is when we get red herrings when we read something, it's totally different when we're getting a visual medium. So they have to, they can't just say something outright, because we will pick it up. Like the hardcore fans like me and Gemma and most of you people on the channel will be like, oh, okay, that's clear foreshadowing. One thing I also found really interesting is when him and Sam are having a conversation, he's carrying all the books, talking about, you know, writing the War of the Five Kings. And Gemma, we talked about this before the stream, how maesters are very much involved in the writing of the history of Westeros. This is something that possibly Sam could do. You know, all of these great battles and all these things happen later on. I think he's going to be one of the characters that is certainly there at the end game. You know, if a John, you know, if a friend like John dies, I'm sure that he would want to write about it if he does something heroic.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit unclear on the show because he left the Citadel under rather awkward circumstances, you know, stealing things. Obviously, in the books, he's still at the Citadel. Does that mean he's not a maester in training? Is not an acolyte in the show anymore? I'm not sure. But like you said, there has been a precedent set for maesters in general writing the histories of Westeros. The World of Ice and Fire was written by Maester Yandel using the notes of Maester Gildane. And the only exception to that rule that I can really think of notable books is Septon Barth, who wrote a lot of books, who was obviously a Septon and a Hand of the King and not a Maester. But if any of the maesters that we are aware of are capable of writing an epic tale, retelling the War of the Five Kings and Ned Stark and the Lannisters and all of that palaver that we're reading in the Song of Ice and Fire, Sam is quite capable of doing it as a POV character.
The magical side of it, because remember how they poo-pooed everything. They're like, oh no, I mean, yes. Bran Stark sent them information, and Sam was like, oh, I know Bran, I trust him. Like, we should trust them, you know.
Sam has, through other characters, had these narratives of what's going on. He's had the opportunity to talk to Jon, obviously, so he knows what's going on with the Starks, and he knows what's going on with Robb Stark. He knows because Jon gets messages, and obviously Sam's his closest friend. And then when he goes to the Citadel, he has access to a lot more information. He was close to Aemon. By proxy, Sam has enough information to pull together to write this book. I think it's really, really possible.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, you know, there's going to be a handful of people that are going to be there at the ending. 7 or 8 characters, I think, major viewpoint characters. Sam is definitely one of them that I think is super safe until the end of the story. I'd be really surprised if he doesn't survive. Because I see so much of, and I think he's one of the characters that there's a lot of George R.R. Martin within as well. Like George himself wrote himself in that character, such as Tyrion and Samwell. So that is something that we might consider. George killing himself off, I don't know if he's necessarily going to do that for the story of his lifetime. But certainly George is not opposed to killing lots of different characters.
Let's have a look and see what the chat thinks. There's a couple of people not really feeling the Sam the narrator.
Gemma, Nicola says something interesting, something that Sam possibly has that might be impactful, of course, in season 8 and in the books. The Horn of Winter. Is that what Sam has? Are we going to see that again? That's something that we didn't really put in our outline today, but something.
The Horn of Winter is, like, for me, I would put money on us not seeing that in the show again, because we have seen it in the show, and it almost feels as though they popped it in at a point where they weren't 100% sure whether they were going to keep it in the storyline or not. They've done that with several things that are sort of canon material from the books, and then it's later been dropped for a variety of different reasons. I think in the show, in the books, it's that horn has got to have some significance, because it's like he pays to go on a ship, and he pays with everything he owns, except he keeps that horn, and that horn is, it just comes back to that horn. It's Chekhov's horn. It comes back to it too many times. At the moment it's broke, or they assume it is. Who knows if he gets that mended. I think it's definitely going to be a book thing.
I think so too. The fact that we haven't seen it for so long, for it to be popped up again, I think a lot of people will be like, oh, well, that's convenient for it to show up again.
I think it's quite likely that, I mean, and I don't mean this derogatively, but that a casual show watchers might not really recall the find of the horn in the first place at the Fist of the First Men. So for them, it might be like, what? Where did this come from? You know, we remember that he found it, but he probably, most people that aren't fanatics like we are might have missed that one. So it would kind of come out of nowhere.
Yeah, I don't think that specific horn is the dragon binder. I think that Mr. Greyjoy, Euron,
absolutely, yeah,
has tricked Victarion with that one.
Two different kinds of horns. The Horn of Winter wakes the sleepers, and is, according to Mance Rayder, will bring down the wall. Dragonbinder, who Kyle correctly says is with Euron or Victarion, is supposed to bind dragons to a person. But
by the way, I do think the wall is built on weirwood trees, personally, and that's part of the magic that is keeping the wall, keeping the White Walkers from coming over. That's a whole nother video that we got to talk about.
It really is.
But not this one. Gemma, let's go back to our outline here. Yeah, we love all the interaction from the chat, by the way. Let's do some more shout outs, actually. Grim Reaper, super active in the chat. Clarissa Thompson, Bernie the Burnt. We have Doug. We have Pamela. We have Mandolin, who is safe today from Thanos. From Thanos snaps in the chat. We have Fake Arya. We have George.
I've got all the stones on my T-shirt. Look, so I'm doing my Thanos thing today.
So Gemma, let's talk a little bit about Heartsbane. I mean, Sam clearly took it from his father. Sam's father got roasted. Now he is the one who owns Heartsbane. There's a limited amount of Valyrian steel around. What's going to happen with that? I mean, that is a bigger sword, right? I mean, John's Longclaw is a long sword, correct?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's a bastard sword. It's actually a bastard sword. Yeah,
bastard sword.
And that's not because a bastard owns the sword. It's a different thing. But Heartsbane, yeah, the big theory with Heartsbane is that Heartsbane is Lightbringer because of the Nissa connection, that Azor Ahype, your name has messed that up for me.
Azor Ahype? Yes.
Because Azor Ahype had to plunge Lightbringer into the heart of his wife Nissa to temper the blade, so it was the bane of her heart.
You mean Hypebringer? Sorry, Hypebringer. Sorry. Yeah.
So people have made the connection that maybe it's a meaning. It's a way of saying that this represents this legendary sword, Lightbringer. But then people do the same with Dawn, don't they? Because Dawn is the bringing of the light in the morning, is Lightbringer. So who knows? I'm not sure if it has any mythical,
a literal meaning, yeah.
But I certainly think it's going to prove handy. I think what is more interesting for me is to look at the characters now in the show, because Sam doesn't have Heartsbane in the show. What I think we need to do as we move into season 8 is we need to look at the characters that now own Valyrian steel.
I'd like to have me some Valyrian steel.
Jaime, Brienne, Arya, Jon, and Sam. And I think that is really, really interesting. I might do a video on that and expand on my thoughts there.
So some people are saying that the blade that Mira had at the cave was Dark Sister, and obviously,
yeah.
And when we were in Redwood City, George said that Bloodraven brought it to the wall. So that's certainly something that, I mean, for books for sure, that's going to be a huge deal. But Gendry is certainly going to be at Winterfell, and Dany's dragons are going to be there. I think the recipe is coming together. Bran could go back in time and certainly view how Valyrian steel is made, or Samwell could have brought a book back from the Citadel that would be very important on how to make Valyrian steel or completely redo it. So that I think that's something important that we have to consider, that Gendry is going to be there, Sam will be there. Daenerys' dragons, Dragonfire was very instrumental in making Valyrian steel.
George Sartiano, hi Big Jeezy, is in the chat and he's dropped a donation, Kyle, and he has a question that's not Waif related.
Will the Faceless Men come after the books that Sam has? Ooh, in the show? He means the show, right, Gemma?
No, not necessarily.
Would the Citadel employ the Faceless Men? Is there a connection there?
The connection. This is kind of because he's stolen the books in the show, but the Faceless Men are at the Citadel, or at least the man formerly known, the artist formerly known as Jaqen H'ghar, is in the Citadel in the books. Disguised, he's now wearing Pate's face from the Feast of Crows prologue. He was before that the Alchemist, and before that Jaqen H'ghar. So George says yes, it is Waif related, both show and books. But there is a connection with Sam and the Faceless Men in the books, very much so, because that's where Jaqen H'ghar's hanging out, looking for fire and blood. Maybe Sam will get hold of it, find something phenomenal, and then have to take that book to Jon in a similar way that we saw in the show. What do you think?
I don't think it's going to happen in the show at all. I mean, if the Faceless Men come for anyone, it's going to be for Arya, and maybe they have some sort of contract to kill Cersei, remove her off the Iron Throne or something like that, or to deal with Arya because they have unfinished business with her. I certainly don't think it's going to be in relation to what we just talked about.
Okay, next.
But maybe in the books they're there. I mean, it certainly. I mean, that plot line was left out of the show. I mean, the Faceless Men, the Alchemist taking Pate's face, and all of that. So that would be really late to insert it in the show. I think it would be confusing.
I have a question for the chat and for you, Kyle. Completely not Sam related, but I've just we think in the chat that the Faceless Men, or Jaqen H'ghar in particular, because he was a lot more prominent in the show than he was in the books. In the books, when he changed his face, we never saw him again as that face, at least. So is that storyline done for season 8? Are we going to see any reappearance of Jaqen H'ghar in the show? Do we think? I'd love to see your thoughts in the chat about that. And what do you think, Kyle? Are we going to see Jaqen H'ghar in any context?
100% we're seeing him in season 8.
I think so too.
I think that in order to get into King's Landing, they're going to need some serious help. I think that Cersei's going to close up the gates to King's Landing at some point, much like the Mad King. We're going to see a lot of history repeating itself. And I don't think, let's think of it like this. Do the Faceless Men think what the Night King is doing is a mockery of the gift of death? Let me ask you that question, and everyone in the chat. Because essentially, the Night King is in this purgatory-like state, and he's raising the dead. And the Faceless Men believe in giving the gift of death. So I think that they are actually, some people think the Faceless Men are in league with the White Walkers. I don't think so at all. I think it's actually the opposite. I think that they would think that is the mockery of the gift.
I couldn't put it better, to be honest. I'm completely with you, which is quite unusual, isn't it? I'm completely with you on that. Given the history of the Faceless Men, we have thanks, George, for throwing us off the track here. But no, basically everything Kyle said. You've got another super chat.
We got another super chat, and it's not in relation to what we're talking about, but thank you so much. The Diaries of Allison G. I'm trying to read that backwards because I realize it is a backwards name. Is Rhaegar the Night King? I heard a theory. Your thoughts? I'm going to say that's 1,000% no for me.
No, for me, For me, there are several characters in this story that need to be dead in order for this story to be this what it is, because the ramifications and the consequences of the choices these people made and their deaths were so huge. To take that back and have them have a secret identity, I think narratively doesn't make any sense and doesn't have the impact that the author would wish to create. That would include Rhaegar, Arthur Dayne, Ned, Lyanna,
Robert
Baratheon. These are characters. Jon Arryn. These are characters that had to die for very specific reasons. I just can't.
Especially Rhaegar and Ned, the two big ones, I think, are because Ned was so important to so many people in the Stark family, and we see how all their lives were affected by not only Ned but the Red Wedding, and Rhaegar obviously in opposition. I mean, he wanted to get his father off the Iron Throne.
Additionally, the Night King is not in the books at all. There is no counterpart to the Night King in the books. We have seen White Walkers or the others. They're called that interchangeably in the books. We've seen them, but there is no indication or evidence to suggest that there is like this leader kind of figure. That's for now. It seems to be a show-only creation. There was a Night's King with an S, but that's a whole separate story from 8,000 years
Lord
ago.
Commander and fell in love with most likely a woman who was a white.
A historical figure, essentially. Certainly not a character in the story as we know it. As far as we know, they are not the same.
But thank you so much for the donations, George and Allison, I believe, if that's your actual name. Hopefully it is, the Diaries of Allison. We're gonna rein it back into Sam now. We talked a little bit about Heartsbane. And we have a couple more points that we want to go over. Then we're going to open it up to the chat and kind of just have an open discussion about Samwell Tarly. But things happen in threes, Gemma, and we agree that things happen in threes, things happen in sevens. There's a lot of numerology that George uses within the story. Things happen in threes within the hero's journey, specifically the archetype and structure that is used within The Matrix, Black Panther, superhero movies, Star Wars. And George is kind of using this element to insert things within the story. But in this case, we really wanted to talk about three big reveals. Sam reveals where and this is show specific for the moment. Sam reveals where the dragon glass is to Jon, which was on Dragonstone. Sam is going to be a huge component into revealing Jon's parentage, I think, because he is someone that Jon trusts wholeheartedly. Is there a third big one, a third big reveal from Sam? Is he going to be instrumental in a reveal about the Night King and the White Walkers? I certainly think so, Gemma. And we were talking about this, and you kind of agree with me.
Yeah, and again, this is show specific because Sam's storyline is far more advanced in the show for obvious reasons. So yeah, when he left the Citadel, he came and basically had to impart this information to Jon. He's then had the conversation with Bran regarding Lyanna and Rhaegar and all of that. We know that big reveal happened. But what he also did is he grabbed several important scrolls and specifically a book that he certainly should not have had his hands on. So I think there's a really good chance that when he has the opportunity to sit down and further inspect what he's got, and then in conversation with Bran, I think it's possible that he could find out even more than Jon's parentage. What that could be.
I actually agree with Allison in the chat, and I think it's going to be how to kill the Night King, but there's going to be specific there's going to be specific consequences when killing the Night King. And what's going to happen to certain people.
Will it literally say that? Will he open the scroll and it will say, how to kill the Night King? Step 1.
No.
That would be pretty handy, right?
Well, I think that Bran and Samwell are kind of going to, John Bradley talked a little bit about how they're going to be a duo in Game of Thrones Season 8. Samwell having the book knowledge and Bran being able to go back in time to periods that Samwell can research. They're kind of going to be able to play off each other. And I think that Sam is going to be Bran is now almost emotionless because he's transcendental. He's kind of weird, but I think that Samuel will have to be the one to break the bad news to Jon that either Jon is going to have to die to kill the Night King, or that Daenerys is going to have to be missing.
I'm going through titles in my head now. Killing the Night King for dummies, you know. Killing the Night King 2.0 cliff notes on how to kill the Night King. I mean, we could go on for a while.
How to remove dragonglass and not just grayscale from someone's chest
in 20 minutes, apparently.
In 20 minutes. Yeah.
With essentially olive oil, because it was salad dressing. With salad dressing, because
Can you hold, Night King? Can you hold? We're just gonna lube you up with some olive oil here. And I'm just gonna put my hand in your heart, bud.
If anybody doesn't understand the salad dressing reference, when
most unprofessional podcasts on the Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones, you won't hear this anywhere else.
When Sam found the information of how to cure grayscale, a lot of us crazy people took screenshots of all of the documents and paperwork, and essentially it was olive oil, and we're like, salad dressing is the cure to grayscale. Who knew? But anyway, another aside, I would like to hear your sensible and humorous ideas of what Killing the Night King for Dummies could say. I would love some suggestions. We've already had a couple in the chat. One was
step one: don't let him touch you anywhere.
Yeah, I want
including your member, because it will become frozen.
I want steps. I want a step-by-step guide from you in the chat right now. If you create something really awesome, I will make a video on it. I promise. We've had throw Sir Pounce at him, but I'm gonna need something. I'm gonna need a bit more than that.
Fake Ari says we need Sanrixian for this to draw this. Yes, we do. The chat is lit right now. We have
it is.
We have 100 of you
Step
watching.
one. I like that. Step one, wear tinfoil. Good one, PJ. Step one, corner the Night King. We've got a few more coming through. 10 ways you can kill the Night King.
Step one, offer the Night King a baby. Offer the Night King a baby.
Bernie the Burnt says, a BuzzFeed article, 10 ways you can kill the Night King using only your phone. Not clickbait. Step one, kill Bran. No more steps. Ooh.
I think that Bran is, I mean, Gemma, you haven't watched Harry Potter. Shame. But in Harry Potter, Voldemort connection in the show, at least, Bran got grabbed by the Night King, and they're kind of bonded physically. And
yes, I agree. Yeah. Some of these are brilliant. 5 steps to kill the Night King using your phone lighter fluid and a spoon.
Hot sauce? Call Hot Pie for some butter. There's tenderly kiss the Night King's hand. Advise. Oh God.
Give him a bad Twinkie. Advise the Night King he can't die, as we have lost the winds of winter. Don't fight someone like him in the first place. Hope someone else does it.
Step one: long-haired buddies, thus killing most of his whites. Okay, kill his long-haired buddies. All right.
These are great. These are really good. Keep them coming, please. So this is the book, Sam. This is the book that Sam build another wall, make Westeros great again. So this is the book that Sam found at the Citadel, confirmed. Killing the Night, 10 steps of killing the Night King.
I wonder if we throw Sir Pants at him, maybe he will react like cats to cucumbers. Oh my God! Stream is over. That was who said that?
Mandolin.
Mandolin. You are for sure safe from any. You're good to go now. That's why you have. That's why you have the thing.
Don't read out what Wesley Mons has just written. Goodness me.
Okay, Wesley, I'm not going to. You're be careful on that one. Let's keep it PG in the chat. But anyways, these are really funny suggestions. But we're gonna open. We have a couple more points that we wanted to talk about. The fate of Samwell Tarly. Ultimately, obviously, we're going to see him at Winterfell with the congregation of all the main characters that are there. Gemma, we know that he's going to be really important. He's one of the most intelligent and wise characters. He's been through a lot. He definitely has something in one of those books. So, what are your thoughts on the fate of Samwell Tarly? Is he one of the characters that makes it to the end of the series? Is does he play an instrumental role? For example, like melting down the Iron Throne. The One True Ring can kind of be seen like the Iron Throne. Obviously, the Night King is part of that equation of the bigger wheel. Is he going to be part of the council? What's up with Sam?
Something I need to put more thought into. Sam, on the surface, comes across as very much an observer of what's going on, somebody who can impart information to the people that then take that information and act upon it. Sam isn't, I mean, and there have been exceptions, obviously Sam the Slayer, but generally he's not the man of action. He's the man that provides the men with action, with the information that they need. He's the guy in the chair, isn't he? He's the guy in the chair. But as far as surviving till the end, yes, 100% for Sam, for me, definitely. In the chat, live or die. For me, he's a definite live. And I don't have many on my list for live at the moment. So for him to stay alive is saying a lot, but he has to survive until the end.
I agree too. I think that we're going to see some sort of Knights of the Round Table types of situation that we see in Arthurian legend, and he's going to be a big part of that, whether he's Grand Maester or advisor to the king or queen or whoever is still around. I think there will be separate kingdoms. I think that he will be an integral. He could become Grand Maester. I mean, they could just wipe the slate clean and say, "Hey, we need to change how not only we govern the realm, but how we share information with everyone." And they might just like release all the information from the Citadel to everyone, so everybody can be aware that this can't happen again. Everybody needs, like, not just the North remembers, but the whole realm remembers.
Yeah,
the Song of Ice and Fire. I think that that's going to be kind of one of the points that George is trying to make within the Song of Ice and Fire. That man needs to reconnect with the values that they had, thousands of years ago and how they communicated. But yeah, just a quick detour for a sec. If you are enjoying this live stream, please make sure you subscribe to Gemma's channel. She has an awesome channel. You like chapter rereads, narrations. She has awesome theories. Secrets of the Citadel, Gemma. She has awesome hair too. Not as awesome as mine, but and if you do want to support her channel, go check out her Patreon as well. Now, if you do want to support this channel, you can support the channel on Patreon through PayPal or the GoFundMe. I always have that stuff in the description of this video. If you do sign up to Patreon, me and Gemma have bonus episodes of the podcast up there. We do like 30 to 40 minutes a week extra for you guys. We have some stuff coming up for you. That's going to be really awesome. And we let you guys vote. Actually, today, you guys, the Patreons, had a big part in voting what today we talked about. So we had a poll and different things to vote on, and you guys voted for Samwell Tarly. So if you want to be part of that, you can sign up, and if you don't, smash that like button, comment, and help this awesome community grow. We love this community. We want to bring more awesome hype and love people to this community. Gemma, so should we open it up to the chat with some awesome predictions and read out some of their awesome predictions of what the fate of Samwell Tarly is?
I would love to see what the chat are predicting. Most people, not everybody, but most people have said that Sam's going to live, but we need more. We need a little bit more from you on that. In what context? Let me just scroll up because there was a really interesting. Here we go. Nayo. I could say it earlier on. I can't say it now. Gemma, don't forget that Sam said that he'd had enough of reading of others' great actions and he was ready to do something. He will leave, be a great maester, and end in the final council. That's the kind of thing I need to see. I want some very definite ending. Where is he going? I mean, will there even be a Citadel in the books? Euron Greyjoy might just, well, see to the Citadel. Who knows how that's going to go down. But in the show, can you see him sat at the end reading? I know a few people said it's a bit fluffy, but if he's reading it to the children that have dead parents, maybe not so fluffy. I'm not sure. I know what you think. I know what I think. I'd love to see
well, baby Sam and John and Danny, like John and Danny are having a baby. We both agree on that. Like
yes.
John and Danny's baby and Sam's baby are kind of like the dream of spring, I think. Like, we talk about Ragnarok and Westeros all the time. The idea that the children inherit the earth and that there's some new hope that is going to be there, or at least an idea of that. I think that, I can get behind that.
There's some really good ones in the chat. Shall I read some of these out?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Sam is going to live and marry, presumably Gilly, and become the Lord of Horn Hill. That would be wonderful. I think Sam is going to stick with John as long as he lives. Definitely. They're proper bros, aren't they? Sam will live, says Sasak. Oh, my. J.R. Rowley says Samwell Tarly will write the Song of Ice and Fire. Bernie the Burnt says spin-off. Ariane Brand travel Planetos with Manila scrolls and reveal parentage before live audiences.
You are not the father.
Attila Angel, I think he lives and inherits Horn Hill as his birthright. Karen Richmond, the Citadel is at the library of Alexandria, and all man's acquired knowledge in one place, and then can therefore be destroyed. Just obviously like the tragedy that happened in Alexandria. Do you want to read some more, starting with Bonds, Kyle?
Sorry, I have to scroll up here. Where is it?
Sam is the prince that was promised, says Bonds.
Is Sam the prince that was promised? I don't believe that, but that's certainly something that has been talked about. The Citadel is at the library of Alexandria. All man's acquired knowledge in one place, and then it's destroyed. So Sam has to rewrite that. That's kind of an interesting take, Karen. Sam will live to be the deputy of the prime minister, and Tyrion will have the new government. So John and Danny will perish. That's kind of an interesting theory that Sansa and Tyrion may be the ones to inherit the ruins of Westeros and rebuild it with the Dream of Spring. I like that. Sam is not a secret Targaryen. I do not agree with that. Sam will be Jon's Grand Maester. That's the one I think that is most likely. I think that Jon's going to actually melt down the Iron Throne and divide the kingdoms into 7 again, and then he will appoint people like Brienne, Samwell, and people like Tyrion that have earned it through merit. That have been through a lot and that deserve it, instead of just like hereditary monarchies, like we see with Joffrey, someone that isn't a good fit to be king.
Nicola Jurakan says Sam is part of House Gardner. No. House Gardner's extinct. It was wiped by Aegon the Conqueror during the Field of Fire, and the sons and the last Gardner died, and the stewards of House Gardner, House Tyrell, took over as the lords of the Reach, and the House Tyrell are bannermen of House Tarly are bannermen of House Tyrell. Got there in the end.
I think Sam could be the warden of the South. Certainly, that's something that we could possibly see, Gemma. I don't think that's like a stretch, especially in the show. I mean, with the Tyrells getting wiped out, like, do we think a similar thing is going to happen in the books?
We have a wild Simon sitting from Blaze Manga.
we have a wild Simon sighting in the back.
Oh,
Simon waits, everyone.
Okay, so Nicola, I meant Garth the Greenhand's relative. Maybe, possibly, maybe. Who knows? There was a lot of interbreeding going on in those days, wasn't there? Garth Greenhand certainly, according to legend, had many, many children.
Yes, and he was thought to perhaps be the father of Bran the Builder, which is very interesting.
Wesley Mons believes that Sam will be the greatest wizard of all time. Yeah, I'll go with that one. I like that a lot.
You're getting some love in chat. Laura D says Simon is a hottie. Come on in here, Simon. Laura D wants to see you. Oh, we got Simon. You're welcome, Laura D. And Laura D, you can find my Patreon, www.patreon.com/AzorHype. If you type it in the search engine, Azor Ahype, you can find my Patreon. Sam will lead a communist revolution. George, I don't believe that at all. Sasek said, who do you think he'll appoint for each of the 7 kingdoms then? Very interesting question. I think that Tyrion will definitely get the West. Gendry will be legitimized. Sam will be in the South.
So Gendry gets the Stormlands, yeah?
I think so, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be interesting to see if he marries or not. I don't know if we'll see that. I think Arya is leaving Westeros completely to either Braavos or on her own adventures, much like Nymeria. Yeah, I mean, Brienne could be like Queensguard, Kingsguard leader, I think, because Jaime's going to die. So I don't know if she'll have like, but that's a leadership role, though. You know what I mean? And it was very much gendered towards men. So I think that can change, and Brienne becomes the leader of the King or Queensguard.
Sam will end up ruling everything. Yes, I want to see Sam on the Iron Throne. It'll never happen. I don't think
there's going to be an Iron Throne in the end.
I don't think there is.
I don't think there's going to be an Iron Throne in the end, though. I mean, if they're talking, especially in the show, they're talking about the wheel being broken. I think that's the one true ring. Power corrupts. The Iron Throne has corrupted a lot of people. I mean, I'm trying to keep it as, yeah.
Marty Davidson says, fun fact, the reason the Night King was so accurate with his javelin is because he is quarterback for his amateur football team, the Frostbites of the Lands of Always Winter.
That's super awesome. But I think we're mostly on the same page. The chat, you've been really awesome today. Samwell is a very important character, and I think that when it comes to the Song of Ice and Fire, whether he's a narrator or a Grand Maester, or whether he ends up revealing something important like a weakness of the Night King or something of someone's heritage, he's going to be there in the thick of things in the end, Gemma.
Do you know what? Isn't this funny? We've actually had a really positive, upbeat conversation about a character from a Game of Thrones. Not only has our estimation of said character been positive and upbeat, but so has our speculations and our predictions. And that's a rarity. I don't think that's ever happened, where almost everyone is kind of on the same page with where he's going to go and how we feel about him. Even the characters that we love, we're not sure if it's all going to pan out. But with Sam, if Sam dies,
everybody's rooting for Sam, right?
Yes, that's
he's got such a good heart. And we want happiness for. He's like, if I could count out of the 5 characters that I really want happiness for someone, Sam is in like the top 2.
Yeah.
Him and Jon are up there. You know, obviously Tyrion is kind of debatable, but Samwell has a pure heart, like he's compassionate. He really cares about people. Gemma, that's gonna do it for us today. Gemma, it's really late for Gemma. She's a little bit
super tired.
Gemma is super tired today, but we wanted to make sure that we were gonna get this in for you today. We only got what, 50 likes in the video, and there's 100 of you watching right now. What are you doing? Smash the like button. If you don't want me to talk super fast like that anymore. But no, if you enjoyed this video, smash the like button. If you would like to see more of these podcasts, of course, subscribe to the channel and Gemma's channel. And if you do want to participate in choosing the content that we talk about on these podcasts, join us on Patreon, where you can participate in Patreon-only polls to decide what we talk about on these amazing podcasts. Of course, we always will take the suggestions of everyone. We want your comments and thoughts in the comment section of this video. Let us know what you would like us to cover, what you enjoyed most about this podcast, and if you have any other questions on things that we didn't cover. I'm sure there's quite a few questions out there, Gemma. I have questions for you. Why is your hair so awesome?
I don't know. I've washed it. I really don't do much to it, to be honest. Not talking about my contouring and my hair. Goodness me. I would also ask anybody that is on Facebook, come and find us in the group Geek Chat 1. I know we banged on about this yesterday, but Kyle, I know you've been using it, and I certainly plan to use it to kind of support the things I'm doing on my channel. If I ever want to do a poll or anything like that, I will probably duplicate it in that group. Chrissy of Old Stones, thank you for dropping the group.
Christy hangs out there. JR Raleigh hangs out there. A bunch of people from the chat hang out there. There's like 200 of us in that group. But Geek Chat 1, we talk about Marvel. We do like, who would win in the fight between Star-Lord and Iron Man? What is your favorite Game of Thrones meme? Stuff like that. And it's fun. And we get to chat with each other. We have, me and Gemma are obviously pretty busy trying to create content and whatnot, but it's a chance to get to know each other and chat with each other and get together and hang out in a really relaxed setting on Facebook.
And to troll Kyle all day long.
Yeah, yesterday I woke up to a post tag Kyle. My phone was like buzzing. I'm like, what is this? And I've been tagged 20 times. Hashtag is shit. Kyle loves a Sheridan and stuff like that. And we invite you guys to obviously, if you haven't heard of Blaze Manga, they've done all of my channel art and branding. All the links to their channel is in the description of this video. Really, really awesome people. They are in our group Geek Chat 1. Obviously, you should support Shire Post Mint, who's been a super helpful up to the channel. Artists like Monk Park and Urtach Altanaz and other amazing creators like Lucifer Means Lightbringer and Deep Geek. And yeah, we have an amazing YouTube community here in the Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones. So don't just stop at supporting me and Gemma, but go out there and see other creators and other amazing videos and content. There's so much out there to discover. So, but that's gonna do it for today for me and Gemma. Usually we have a really bad sign off where we say hype and love and then like we don't do it at the same time. So I'm gonna ask Gemma to sign us up today because she's tired, and asking her to do something will probably trigger her. So Gemma.
I am so crap at outros. How do I do it in my normal videos? Okay, thank you for listening. Have a great day, and we'll see you in the next one.
Hype and love. I like